Hello and welcome back to the Cocked Dice. We're back again with another conversion video. This week we're not making a Primaris Lieutenant. This of course is a Primaris Lieutenant kit that comes in the new starter box or in Dominus if you got a copy of that. It's a really nice model and this is an exceedingly flexible kit. One of the new series I said I was going to do this year is on budget characters. Now you can pick these guys up from eBay for about £6 UK. I think I've got 2 or 3 of them now, or obviously if you're buying into the starter boxes there's a good chance you can have a couple of them kicking around, and to be honest you don't really need more than one lieutenant. So what else can we do with him? Well, in tonight's video I'm going to be making this guy into a Primaris Librarian. From this kit we're going to mainly need the legs and body. We'll need this arm sticking out here, and we'll take the sword, and that's it. Everything else, chuck it in your bits box. So first job is grab your clippers and we'll get this guy off the sprue and cleaned up. Now obviously this is going to be a librarian. We don't particularly need the pistol, we don't need the sword. I'm going to use this pistol arm. I love the shoulder pad, it's a pretty awesome shoulder pad. It's not quite right for a librarian. If you've got a spare librarian shoulder pad you could always cut this off, as I've done in numerous other videos, and replace this shoulder, but for this model I'm going to keep it because I'm going to keep this as cheap as I can. We're just going to take off the pistol, and this is just a matter of cutting down behind the ammo clip on that side and then straight across the top here as smoothly as you can. Then just clean this area up with a knife or file. So we need to make this guy look a little bit more like a librarian. Now the simplest option here is change the head and the weapons, so we're going to start with that. If you want an easy option, check out the Grey Knights kit. There's a really good force stave in there, and I'm pretty sure that'll fit pretty nicely on that arm. Just chopping the hand off and replacing it with this stave. That's your simplest option. These again you can pick them up from eBay or from bit sellers for £1 or £2, so that wouldn't add a huge amount of money to the conversion. If you want to go with something a little more complicated, then it's brass wire. We'll need something to top it. Now you've also got some other options. We've got the top of, no, that's actually the back of Indominus's Chaplain. I had a spare one from another conversion. That's pretty much the same sort of shape as this. You could also use the Iron Halo here with a skull from the Citadel Skulls kit bunked in the middle. Both those would give you this sort of effect fairly simply. If you're going for a different chapter, then you might want to pick out something else. So for Space Wolves, something like this. I think this one's from a Wolven kit, but there's loads of different symbols and kind of totems in Space Wolf kits. So mount that on the top of a staff and that'll start looking pretty cool. Or for something a little more Dark Angel-y, something like this servo skull here, just drill a hole up underneath it and you've got a pretty cool skull with bits hanging off it. We may want to change some of these pipes to make it fit, but you could relatively simply put a hole up there and mount this on there with a bit of extra gubbins. So there's some of the options we've got for the skull, for the staff. The only other thing you want to think about is this sort of electrical box and cabling. One of the best sources for this is the Adeptus Mechanicus Skitarii kit. Their backpacks in particular come with all sorts of really exciting, it is if you're me and a converter, really interesting technical bits. This box here and the cabling there would be perfect. Either of these would also be pretty cool just to add some bulk and interest to the staff. For this model I'm going to take this servo skull and probably those bits. I'm going to not do a Space Wolf one, and I'm not going to take the easy option. So we need to think about his other arm now. I found this hand in my bits box. It's from a Primaris Lieutenant, Primaris Sergeant. It's probably the Intercessor's kit. and his hand's going out there. Now, pointing's cool, but it's not as cool as an outstretched psychic hand. So grab this. I think this one is either from Sanguinary Guard or it's from the Grey Knights kit. Both have them in. It's slightly raised. We're going to pop that hand on there and make him looking this way, casting some sort of psychic power. So to mount this staff on here, I'm going to have to trim a little bit of the chain off here. That's a pretty simple job. We're just going to take a knife and trim up towards the skull, just taking loads of care that we don't slice into our thumb. Now for this I'm using 2mm brass wire. You need to get a drill bit with the same thickness, and we just want to pop a hole up into his skull here, as level and straight as we can. So there's the first part of the staff done, and we're going to start adding some cabling to it. I'm going to go with the Skitari ones. I think that's probably the best piece there. I may also grab some of these as well. So for this bit we just need to separate this section here from the rest of the backpack. Quick slice down there, quick slice in there. And just separate it at the top as well. There we go. Now we've got some sort of interesting looking power pack, and just level off the back of it so it's going to fit against the staff fairly neatly. Now to fit that to the model, we're going to have to put a great chunking hole through this hand here. Now looking at the angle here, we want to go at a slight angle in. We're going to make sure it's not too steep that it's going to interfere with his clothes, but just run it through. So I've not attached this arm yet. It's always a bit easier to do it before you attach it. I'm going to find the centre of his hand. It's looking pretty good there. Then we need to go in at an angle. So just as you drill, just tip your drill very gently until you get the desired angle, and then head all the way through it. Now we've got a nice hole through there, so I'm going to get this stuck back on the model, and we'll get this cut to size and stuck on, and then we'll start building it out from there. You just need to measure where your staff wants to sit. I think we want to sit it about there. Take the bottom of your wire, cut with a flat end towards the wire. That helps give you a fairly smooth cut. And brass wire is pretty soft, so it'll cut pretty easily. Now with the end there, so just grab a standing stick and give it a bit of a rub. And as you see, we've levelled that off pretty nicely there. Now obviously we're going to have to do some work to polish this up a little bit, and there's a whole host of options we've got here. So for the base of the staff, you want to grab the bottom of a weapon. Now find any sort of chainsword, sword, axe, fantasy axe, especially some of the Chaos fantasy kits. They've got some really nice ornate pommels on them. I've had a dig through my bits box and I found this, which looks pretty awesome to me. It's a Fire Slayer axe from the Age of Sigmar range, and I'm going to take the top of it off here and cut it just about there, take either side off, and we're going to be left with this kind of central lantern shape. So once you cut it out, next job is going to be to get a hole in it. So in from the top, get your drill bit nice and central. There we have it, and we'll super glue that onto the bottom of his staff. Now because of that, we've now made the staff a little too long, so I've not glued the top on it yet. But we can get a better view now we know where it's going to hit the base. This also gives us the opportunity to drop a little bit of polystyrene cement under the base here and just stick it to the base as well. Strengthens the whole model up, and you'll not see any of that glue because we'll cover it in basing material later. Right, clippers, that's what I want. So we're going to start removing bits of the top of the staff. I'm going to go down to about there to begin with. And when you're happy with the height of it, we're going to just pop a bit of glue around the hand here, make sure this sticks into his hand, and then a little bit of glue around the top. Now the Mechanicus part we bought earlier, cut off earlier, we're going to stick this onto the top of his staff up here. And then a little later we're going to come back and add some fabric wrap to the staff handle. But for now we're going to stop there with that. We'll get onto his other arm, get that sorted out and positioned. So this is a really simple conversion. We're just going to simply cut the hand off at the wrist, like that, and then clean up this area here. And then once it's had a few minutes, we'll pop a bit of glue on the wrist here, and we'll pop on the open hand like so. It's starting to look pretty awesome now. So I'm going to pop this guy to one side, let him just dry off a wee little bit before we do any more work. Now we're moving into the land of the highly experimental, and one of the other things a librarian is famous for is their psychic hoods. For that, we're going to take a standard Primaris shoulder pad, and you can see I've scored a couple of lines on here just doing a couple of tests. We basically want to cut it either side of this, leaving this little indent intact, and about 1 millimetre either side of it. I want to slice straight down. I've done curved lines here, but I think it's actually going to be easier to cut straight across in a bit of an angle. And with the curve of this, we can clean it up on the inside and we'll get a really nice shape for it. And we'll just do a test cut. It's a bit hard to do this on screen because I can't see the top of the model. So we'll cut diagonally across the shoulder pad like that. And yeah, we've pretty much done that. As you can see, I've left this intact, and then we can cut in here like so, and then just curve it round from the back. And as you can see on this side, I've shaped this a little bit, smoothed it off with just the side of the blade. You can use a file if you wish, and you want to take it from being a straight rough cut like that to something nice and smooth that's got that kind of slight curvature profile. I'll just finish the other side of this one, and then we'll get on to getting this on the Marine. So the last job we're going to do on this is we're going to cut across the rim of this shoulder pad here, nice and level, and cut it straight across. So our next job is to add a head to this guy. Now I've grabbed this head from the Grey Knights kit again. It's a perfect head because it's got this kind of psychic cabling. Looks nice and stern, but to be honest, it's going under a psychic hood. So pick out any cool Space Marine helmet you like, and we'll get it glued in. And when you've got him facing in the direction you want, which in our case is following this hand down here, we'll glue his psychic hood just by putting a bit of glue on the rim of his helmet back here, then dropping this on facing forwards. And if you've cut it right, it should sit just over his head. A little closer than I liked there. This is obviously quite a tall helmet. Would have helped if I took a second or two to test fit it, but as you can see, it follows the roundness of the collar quite nicely. We've got it nice and central there, and if you're really keen, you can always green stuff across that, but to be honest, it's going to be covered in a backpack and you're probably never going to see it. So this guy's coming along nicely. Now the other major component of a Psyker in 40k is the cabling that attaches to his hood. Now you've got a few options for that. I found these in my bits box. These are cables from Adeptus Titanicus. They're the weapon cables from the spare weapons I had. Your other options, this is precast metal cabling. It's really quite cool. It bends quite nicely, so you can give yourself a nice cool bend if you want to. You've got things like green stuff rollers, which I haven't got, but you can roll your own cables, or you can just use tubes of green stuff. I think the other one I found, which looked pretty good, was going to be the cables from the Aggressors kit. They've got some nice bunched cables. I want to use this stuff for tonight's conversion. I'm going to use the larger of the two, so we're just going to strip this back and clean it up a little bit. So taking the larger of the two cables here, I'm going to cut it right down the bottom here. So I've got plenty to play with. Do that on each side, like so. Chuck the spares out of the way. Now we'll do a test fit to see how well it's going to fit. Now this is it's got quite a nice curve to it. This is one of the reasons I picked it out. But as you can see, that's going to fit around about there. So I'm just going to look for where it's attaching. I'm going to push it as far back as I can, like so. So we're down to the last few bits of this model. First of all, we're going to cover up this hole here just by adding a shield. This one little librarian book came from a Grey Knights kit. So that helps hide that hole, and to be fair, a chunk of that piping where I didn't make such a great job of it. We'll pop his sword back on again now, and his backpack. And there we have it. I'm going to do a little bit of green stuffing on here, tidy up this pipe work. I may add occasional purity seal, but for all intents and purposes, this guy's done. If you hang around for a minute or two, you'll see a painted version of him coming up right now. And thanks for joining us here at the Clock Dice. Why not like this video and add a comment below? It really helps boost the channel. And while you're at it, if you click on the icon below, you can subscribe to the channel for all the latest updates as soon as they're live. Why not check out some of our other videos and playlists? You can click on the ones on screen right now. Take care, and we'll see you next time.